It is 6 o'clock. This meeting is called to order. Mike, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, all right, we will begin our meeting, as always, by approving the minutes of previous meetings, starting with the June 11, 2012 work session.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes as written.
Second.
It's been moved by Mike and seconded by Ray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Moving on to the June 11, 2012 Select Board meeting.
I'll move that they be approved with the amendment that my name be added as being present.
Second.
It's been moved by Ray that they be approved as amended and seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those minutes are approved. Next, we have the June 11, 2012 non-public minutes.
I think it's my turn. I make a motion to approve those minutes as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Mike, seconded by Ray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those minutes are approved. And we will not vote on the public hearing minutes from June 14th because we don't have a quorum of members who were present at that meeting. Announcements. The Select Board will meet on the following dates. Regular meetings at 6 p.m. on July 9, 2012 and July 23, 2012. Work review sessions prior to the regular meetings will start at 5 p.m. on July 9th and at 4 p.m. on July 23, when the Select Board will have a tour of Parks and Rec facilities, and that work session will convene starting at the Parks and Rec facility at Plymouth Regional High School. All of the other meetings will be held in the Town Hall. Weather observations for the month of May are available in the Town Hall. Citizens wishing to be listed on the Selectmen's agenda should notify the Town Hall before 12 p.m. on the Friday before the scheduled meeting. Please note that the town offices will be closed on Wednesday, July 4, 2012, in observance of Independence Day. Okay, the first item on our agenda is our visitor, Senator Jeannie Forrester, here with an update. So, Senator Forrester, welcome. You can move them.
Okay. Well, thank you for giving me a few minutes to come and speak with you, give you an update of what I've been up to. You recall early, I think I've been here a couple times now, but what I'm doing is now going back to all the different towns that I represent, 31 communities, kind of meeting with the selectmen and getting their feedback about what we've been doing in Concord. With the redistricting for the Senate, we still keep Plymouth. We lost, I guess this district will lose 9 towns, pick up 5 new ones. But even with the towns that we did lose in redistricting, like Canaan, Easton, Lyme, I'm still visiting those towns because up until the time that that turns over, I'm still serving those towns. So
That gives you 36 towns to deal with then, I guess.
well, I'm almost done. I think I only have about 4 more towns to do. So anyway, you know, when I decided to run for this office, it really was to focus on jobs and the economy, and we've worked on that very hard. But one of the other reasons that I decided to run for this seat was I wanted to serve the communities, having had that economic development background, working with the communities, having been a former town administrator. Felt like we needed a voice in Concord. And so I've been very active that way. I sat on the Senate Finance Committee, and I sat on Public and Municipal Affairs. And interestingly enough, Public and Municipal Affairs saw, in this last session, saw the largest amount of legislation come through that committee, which is kind of interesting. Been back to many of my communities offering my assistance wherever I can, and have been actively engaged in quite a few of the towns in economic development activities, like up in Haverhill, Dorchester, Warren for the Baker River flooding. So wherever the communities have asked for assistance, I've been there and tried to help however I can to make those connections with state government. And one of the challenges that I kept hearing from the towns are the not good relationships with state agencies, whether it was DES, DOT, or the Department of Labor. So early this last summer, I did a road managers roundtable discussion, and I brought, with the help of the UNH Technology Transfer Center, brought together the road managers, invited all of them in, and actually got road managers from towns that were not in my district. And we talked about the challenges that they have and how could we help them be more effective at their jobs. And we decided to pick one issue, and that was culvert repair. And working with the Technology Transfer Center, DES, and selected those municipalities that were interested in being part of it, we created a certification program for the towns. And now it's an optional. You don't have to do it, but if you send your road agent through this program, you get certified, and then you can repair any culvert that needs repair up to 48 inches, and you don't have to pull a permit. And you only have to report on a quarterly basis. So it helps DES in terms of the time that they have to spend pulling permits every time that a town runs into a problem. It helps the towns because they don't have to stop what they're doing and wait for the permit. So it really has streamlined and improved the relationship between, or will improve the relationship between the towns and the DES. That was a really collaborative effort, and it passed both the House and the Senate. And I think we're just waiting for the governor to sign it, but we expect that he will. I had in talking with the communities, heard a lot about the issue of abuse of the EBT card, the electronic benefits transfer card. And so, meeting with welfare administrators in the various towns, I asked the Health and Human Services folks to come together with LGC and meet with all the administrators. That everybody was invited, and we had a roundtable discussion, and that was I thought very helpful, because it makes those connections for the people in state government to meet the people on the front lines and hear what they're dealing with, and vice versa for the folks on the front lines to see what the state can and cannot do. And out of that, one of the things we heard, especially in the northern part of the state, is that when LGC holds training sessions, they're always down in Concord or farther away. So I was able to get them to come north, got them as far as Meredith, and they just had a training last week for all the welfare administrators. And it was really neat. I stopped in, and it was their largest participation. They had like 80 or 90 people there. Mm-hmm. So, of course, the other issue I worked on a lot was the Northern Pass issue. House Bill 648 did pass. That was, I like to think, not just me. It was a lot of people working on that issue that we were, I think, finally able to get the House and the Senate to pass that legislation. And then 361, Senate Bill 361, which is the Interagency Task Force, Governor just signed that last week. And that's looking at a corridor, underground corridor, feasibility for that. So I think that was a good piece of legislation that we got passed. Of course, the big issue that I've talked with you about before is LGC and the reserves. And you probably heard that we had Senate Bill 212. The House tried to make some changes, or did make some changes, and they refused to go to committee of conference to work it out, so that bill died. So kind of right back to where we were before. But we did pass, it was House Bill 655, and that extends the Secretary of State's authority to investigate, so that, because that was due to sunset. So we did pass that, and they still are being looked at, and we will come back next session and deal with it again, and hopefully be able to get the House to work with us on passing some good legislation to deal with that issue. So, and I think that's kind of just in general. I'm, you know, all the other things we did, pass business-friendly legislation, balanced budget, that sort of thing. I don't know if you have any questions for me, but that's kind of just wanted to come and give you an update, see if you had any questions, any concerns.
I appreciate it. I'm curious as to whether our welfare officer and road agent participated in the roundtable discussions that you had with the communities, or
Your road agency?
Peter Furmanek.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
And our welfare officer was there.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Last week, too.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a good showing for the, I was really pleased with the welfare administrators. But I think what that, for me, and that's that Main Street training, I think, or working in communities, is really, we need to be working together and having these these discussions, so that everybody is talking and we can, you know, kind of fix the problems. So, and I think sometimes, especially when I had the first meeting with the road agents, they come in and they're all, you know, they're angry and about what's happening at the state level, and you know how they're getting pushed around or not served, and they have to hear the other side of it too, just like with the welfare administrators. And I think we can come up with some good solutions if everybody's listening and talking and figuring out ways to make things happen. So,
Yeah. Well, I imagine that both of our Plymouth employees probably had a lot to contribute from the positive side, because we've got those are two exceptional employees, so they really do a super job.
But the problem that we still have is the burden that's being put on Plymouth,
Yes.
and our law enforcement, and our welfare department, especially from the state hospital. I think the Madam Chair has sent out a letter.
Yeah, you know, I don't think that I sent that to Senator Forrester, so I will do that. It's an email that I have that I sent to our legislators, but I did not send to the senator, so I will share that with her.
what's that about?
Well, essentially, we have two egregious examples of it, but a number of examples of it, of individuals who have been in the state hospital repeatedly. They don't come from Plymouth, they come from other towns, and they are released from the state hospital to Plymouth. One of these individuals, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but one of them has been, had 95 different police contacts and 13 arrests.
Correct.
Since 2007.
Yes.
And the other has had 65 contacts and 8 arrests since 2010. 2005, I'm sorry. Neither of them can be put up in our homeless shelter because they have such terrible conduct problems. There's drugs, there's drinking, they're just trouble in the town, and they belong in the hospital. They really shouldn't be released because they go off their drugs when they're released from the hospital, and they're just not fit to be out. And they don't have, if they don't have 24-hour supervision forcing them to take their
Okay,
drugs,
so you're
they
saying
can't
that
be
the
there.
state hospital's releasing them and they really
They're
shouldn't?
not only releasing them and they shouldn't, but they're releasing them specifically to Plymouth.
Why?
When they belong to other towns, because they ask to come to Plymouth, because the support agencies that they have, including Genesis Behavioral Health, are located in Plymouth, so it's easier for them to be in Plymouth. rather than the towns where their parents live.
Oh.
And the bottom line is they're saying that they don't have the room for them.
At State Hospital?
Right.
And we don't, and they actually drop them off at our doorstep here at the town hall, or right down at the Pemmy Bridge House.
Who's they, the police?
No,
State
I
troop?
guess the hospital must have staff.
You're not, isn't it
I'm not
state?
sure how they...
Well, we actually had one in a taxi car, in a taxi just come and get dropped off.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
I've
giving
walked
bus
into the
fare.
town hall one morning to find one of them passed out in the town hall lobby, obviously very, very inebriated. And as I said, you know, it's really, really taxing our resources to have these individuals. I mean, they are two of many, and they're definitely the worst examples, but
Can you
that's...
send me a copy of that?
I will. I'll be happy
look
to.
into it.
I will. Definitely.
Huh. Any other questions?
Do either of you have any questions for the senator?
I don't think so.
Mike? Well, thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you for
We
coming.
appreciate your
Thank you.
time.
Jeannie. Really,
I was
thank you,
corrected
thank you.
once.
I appreciate that. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you for coming.
Seriously, if there is anything send me that and
I
I'll
will.
check into it, but if there's anything I can do, any issues, that's what I'm there for, so give me a call.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to chairman's comments. At our June 11th meeting, it was discussed that we would conduct a public hearing on July 9 concerning the proposed amendment to the disorderly actions ordinance. And after researching this further, it has been determined that such an amendment requires a vote by the town meeting. It's a substantive change rather than a defining change to the disorderly conduct ordinance. So therefore, the July 9 public hearing has been canceled, and if we pursue this, there will certainly be public hearing, but it will be closer to the March meeting. Moving along to new purchase orders, the fire department. Chief Clogston.
The first one is the Lakes Region Dispatch Center purchase order. I would like to make a correction on the letter I sent you guys. It's a very small one. It is just correcting the number of towns that they currently service. It's 35, not 37, so I have that correction here for you. Thank you. With that, the association, you know, the mutual aid system, communication center, in the past, they really never sold themselves because they just, the amount of money they make is just what they need to run. So here's an informational packet that gives you a little more information on what the dispatch center actually does. It does more than just don't sell for calls. They provide other services that you don't get at most other dispatch centers.
Chief, do you know how the number is arrived at?
Yes, as indicated in the informational letter I gave you, they take the population in the evaluation, and that's how they figure out that number.
So it's per capita in your town?
No, it's for the, you see how it's done here. They get the evaluation from the DRA, and then they get the population from
census, and that's usually like 2 years behind.
Mhm.
And so they plug that into a formula along with all the other communities. So it's not population-based or call-based, it's on those figures.
But it sounds like, it says using the population figures and evaluation
Right.
from DRA. What is evaluation? Does that mean valuation?
The value.
Oh, the value, the real estate values. Okay, I got you. So it's a formula that combines population with valuation.
Right, right.
Okay.
Gotcha. Do you know who does it? The,
The chief and deputy of the communications center.
do you ever see the formula, or I'm not like cross-examining, I'm just curious.
Yeah,
Do you
and
see
the
the formula?
budgets
Do you
are all
know?
passed by the board of directors, which every town, the
Mhm.
fire chief is a member of the board of directors, so their budget
see.
goes through the whole process. They send all that information out there. And it's-
So you're a member of the board, and as a member of the board, you see who gets charged what for everything?
Yep.
So you know, or at least have the ability, if you chose to determine that this is a fair number based on our participation. That's kind of what I was
Yep.
kind of getting at is, how do we know where that number came from? But that's a good answer.
Yep.
And it seems to me we did this last year, which would have been my first time.
Right,
Yes.
right, and
Every
it gets
year.
voted on at town meeting every year, too.
Right.
It's always one of the...
Is this something like what we paid last year, same neighborhood?
Just an observation for future reference. Thinking about what Mike just spoke to, it would be helpful in future presentations if we knew what the previous year or two fees were that we were assessed, just so we could see if there was a trending that was taking place. It would be helpful to see that.
Okay.
That's for future.
Yep. Jot it down so I don't forget it.
And I would make a motion to approve the purchase order for our proportionate share of the Lakes Region Dispatch Services in the amount of $44,332.02.
I will second that motion.
It has been moved by Mike, seconded by Ray. All those in favor?
All right?
Aye.
Opposed? That purchase order is approved. Okay, and the next one that we have is the purchase order for purchase and installation of Caterpillar Model D866 diesel packaged generator in the amount of $53,500.
And that is we were successful with the grant, and we're going to get a 50% match on that. So the actual cost to the taxpayer is going to be $26,750.
And could you just summarize for us what that's going to do for you?
What that's going to
You
do,
told us before.
okay,
but just-
what that's going to do is the generator that we currently have is in the back, it was put in back in the 60s, I believe.
Mhm.
It runs only a small proportion of the firehouse right now during times of power outages. The last time it went down for service, it was extremely hard to get parts for it, and it was quite lengthy time to even get this thing repaired so that it would work, you know, to where it's at now. And sometimes we still have to go out there and manually mess around with the throttle setting. So
And in comparison, what is this capable of?
this one is going to be able to run the entire building. It has been sized so that when we go forward and get a new updated facility, it will be able to handle anything that we're going to put in that new facility. So when it's running up there right now, once it's installed, it's not even going to be using a fraction of what it can be producing for power.
So you're saying it can produce all the electricity that you think you'll need in this station or in any likely replacement
Right.
station?
Right. When we first started this, I spoke with the engineers that we've been working with and asked them if they could give me some figures on what they thought, and I in turn gave that information to our electrician and said, this is the information, let's see if we can't work the price. And this price right here, from a first price on one that would just do the station now, the cost difference was very, very minimal. The cost of the generators actually went down quite a bit, and he couldn't believe that. We were basically doubling the size of the generator for only a few $1,000s more. And
That's great. And this is important just because the fire station is another emergency operations center, and if we don't have power, we lose that EOC capacity, so it's a good thing. And again, it's great that 50% of it is being grant funded. So have I a motion to approve the purchase and installation?
I'll move that we approve the purchase requisition as presented.
Second?
And moved by Ray and seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? That purchase order is approved. Thank you.
thank you very much. Have a good evening.
First one. All right, moving on to committee reports. Right?
I'll start. It's been a dry spell with meetings that just haven't occurred because of the season. The next school board meeting won't be occurring until August, and Dick attended the most recent planning board meeting, and I'm sure at his next occasion he'll update us on that.
Okay.
And I haven't been to anything since our last meeting that I can report on.
Okay, this is actually not a committee report, but I did attend the State Police Canine Academy graduation, and Sergeant Derek Newcomb and Bruder graduated from that class. Bruder gave a very impressive obedience demonstration, and we will be appointing him to our police department. When is that going to be, Steve?
July 9th.
July 9th. So look forward to that. And if anybody wants to see the newest addition to Plymouth's Police Department, you're welcome to come to the July 9 meeting for
Are
that.
we actually going to
We are going-
appoint Bruder as we would any
We
other?
swear Bruder in because doing so basically accrues him fairly significant. Steve, why don't you?
Yeah, it basically affords him all the securities as a real police officer. If you assault a dog, you're assaulting a police officer.
It's a felon to assault a police dog once he's appointed. So it's,
Does he raise his right hand?
Not yet. He does everything else. And I just remind everybody, he's not as cute and fuzzy as he was when we got him and he was this big.
no,
Put him on a leash.
yeah, definitely.
That'd be nice.
We have no other business. Is there any public comment this evening? Oh, no, I'm sorry, we do. We have Chief LaFave, the speed limit change on Texas Hill. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Peter apologized he couldn't be here this evening, so I told him I would take care of this. Peter was doing some improvements on the dirt section of Texas Hill Road. That would be the section between Cummings Hill Road and Bridgewater, if you're familiar with it. And he happened to notice the speed limit sign was 35 miles an hour. He thought that was a bit fast. He went out and drove it and then felt it was a very unsafe speed limit. He then contacted me. Him and I went out and drove it, and I just drove it today as well. And I have to agree with him. Just trying to maintain 35 miles an hour in that section is extremely dangerous. There are a couple parts of the road where there are blind driveways or hills, or if there's no way two cars could safely pass each other going opposite directions at 35 miles an hour. I feel, and Peter feels, that a more appropriate speed limit would be 25 miles an hour in that section. And then also in doing so, the rest of Texas Hill, the paved portion, is 35 miles an hour. So we did that, and I felt the same with that. However, I don't think that it needs to be a drastic change in that speed limit. I think if we just made that 30 miles an hour, and Peter agrees with me as well, that would be a lot more safe for people pulling out of their driveways and the motoring public as well. And doing some research that we do have the authority to do this. With somebody from the town has to do a traffic investigation, and I would argue that Peter and I actually trying to drive it at the speed limits is a traffic investigation. He's done it, we've done it together. We've looked at it, driven the roadway, so I think I would argue that that is an investigation. So we've met the statute requirements for that.
I would agree with that. That sounds pretty straightforward. Any?
So what I'm reading is whenever local authorities determine that the speed limit is greater or less than is reasonable and safe, the local authority may determine and declare a reasonable and safe speed. So I guess that's us, huh?
Correct, you are the highest authority in the town.
We are the governing body. That's our decision.
So would the chair entertain a motion to change the speed limit on Texas Hill Road on the unpaved portion to 25 miles per hour and on the paved portion to 30 miles per hour?
I would entertain that motion.
Then I will make that motion.
And I will second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded that those changes to the posted speed limit on Texas Hill Road be made. Is there any further discussion or questions? In that case, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those changes are approved.
And I have this form, this is the original that you will all
Okay.
have to sign here. Madam Chair, while we're still kind of on this topic, can I bring something new up?
Yes.
I would just request from the board of assembling the Highway Safety Committee again. We had it, Steve Tamburino was on it, and then some key people kind of left. Steve, Tammy Hill, a few other people. I don't even know who is on the committee anymore, if there is. What I'm saying is I think we need to bring in some new members and start it up again so Peter and I aren't the only ones doing this all the time.
I agree. Do you have recommendations for members, or do you want to, shall we consider this a...
I would say I would ask members of the public, but, the fire chief, Casino Clarkson, that would be, I would welcome his membership, because there are certain roads where he's got to get big fire trucks down, and his input would be greatly appreciated. Maybe even Craig Doyle from the university also, and then any other member of the public who would like to help out with that, I think would be great.
Yeah, I think we should limit the numbers.
Did we have a number
There's
before?
always one citizen,
One
one
citizen.
individual from the university, the 3 department heads that you just mentioned, highway, police, and fire.
Okay. So I would then suggest that if anyone in the public is interested in serving on the Highway Safety Committee, they should submit a letter or an email requesting appointment and give some information about what they consider to be their qualifications, and then you and the Highway Department Supervisor and Casino should, we can make the selection.
Perfect. Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great,
I don't
thank
know if you
you.
can see the, we have a hand up.
Yes.
Just a comment. My understanding is that the representative from Spear Hospital was on that committee at one point in time. We had a hearing, the committee was present, and I believe there was a representative from Spear Hospital during that meeting who was on the committee, which in my mind would make sense, given ambulance traffic and other hospital unique needs.
We can look at it.
Well,
We
we
can
can
look
look
at
at
the
this.
membership. I mean, it may have been somebody there because they had an interest in it and they just were there to
But I think the
come.
meeting that you were out, Brendan, I'm sorry, they were there for a reason that day. But
They were sitting at the table, so, but I don't know.
we'll look at the minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, now I see that we have completed the agenda because our other 2 items are delayed due to absence of Mr. Berman. So moving on, is there any public comment tonight? Yes.
If I might approach and just make a very quick presentation to our illustrious chair that got left out at the end of this semester when you stepped down from your role as co-chair of the Campus Community Council. We have a small token gift for you for your work, which is a water bottle, since you need to keep your throat moist while you speak. And inside are 4 wooden nickels. And this is one of the rare times that wooden nickels have value. They're good for a small beverage at any of the cash operations on campus.
And you have a choice, because we award those for courteous crossing behavior and other philanthropic good citizen gestures if we have them in our pockets and we see a student wave and is courteous. So you can either pay it forward and distribute those to some of your fellow board members to also acknowledge and reward courteous crossing behaviors, or you can treat them to a free beverage, but want to say thank you for your work with the Campus Community Council, and Charlie will attempt to fill your shoes, I know, and if he does a good job, maybe I'll give him a water bottle too. I don't know. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. That's great. As you know, I've got a water bottle at every meeting, so.
I know you do. That's why I said this will be
Yes.
a good gift for you.
That's
And a
great.
shameless promotion of Plymouth State University, but that's another story.
Well, yes, that's all right. Very good. Thank you. Is there any other public comment tonight? Mr. Hope? Hoke.
Hello, Brendan Hope from Smith Street. I was here a year ago to talk about the Smith Street street conditions, and I'm just here for a little bit of an update. I know that the Highway Department manager has met with me in a meeting that was facilitated by John Wood, also a resident of Smith Street, and we looked at the situation, and I've been told, I think through back channels, that others, perhaps some of you may have also been on Smith Street in the past year to look at the pavement situation. The Highway Department has made some efforts to improve the quality of the surface. They've done some patching in the recent months. I'm here tonight to see if there's going to be a more permanent solution to the conditions on Smith Street. The condition in front of my property continues to be an issue. These are some pictures that I took this evening around 4 o'clock. And you can see that the drainage where the pavement ends is better than it once was. Before some of the work that the Highway Department did, the water would actually be as large as a vehicle, but I just wasn't sure if there was any progress on this situation or not.
Well, you know, we are doing roads in other areas first, especially the dirt roads that are being paid for with FEMA money during this economy. That's where we need to put our focus. The Water and Sewer Department still has to do their plan for Smith Street, so no, we are not going to do anything on Smith Street until the Water and Sewer, Plymouth Village Water and Sewer completes their infrastructure work. And quite frankly, there are larger areas than the problem on Smith Street that need work done now with the limited funds that we've got available. So at this time, no. To answer your question, there is nothing in the plan for Smith Street.
Mm-hmm. I'll just finish by saying that I noticed, I'm looking at the minutes from the June 11th meeting, and I see that Morse Road is going to be paved next month. I would make the case that the pavement surface of Smith Street is worse than the pavement surface of Morse Road and other dirt roads in town. I travel a lot with my 2-year-old son who needs to fall asleep in the car seat, and I was up on Old Hebron Road a week or two ago, and the surface up there is pretty nice compared to the surface of Smith Street. It's impacting property values. It is somewhat of a safety issue, not just in front of my house. The corner of Smith and Smith continues to be an issue.
We appreciate your opinion, Mr. Hope, but the priorities have been set and they're in place. Again, the roads that are getting done are the ones for which we are getting matching government grants because of the conditions of the roads, and there's no logic to diverting funds toward a road that
I
we're not
understand
getting
that.
help with at this time.
I'll finish by saying that I did send an email to the Highway Department manager and the town administrator asking what is the status of things. I sent that email on June 14th. I got no response. And that's why I'm here tonight, because I didn't get any response from anybody telling me, yes, this is going to happen, no, this is not going to happen, and any reasons why. So I was a little disappointed in the communications on that front.
Your concern disappointment is noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any additional further public comment? In that case, I would request a motion to go into a non-public session in accordance with RSA 91-A:3, 2, A through C.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved by Mike, seconded by Ray. All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. We are now non-public.